Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The point of this podcast is to get other police officers, and in this case, a psychologist, to give encouragement to other police officers. So on this show, you'll hear from cops who have been where you are, sharing their wisdom and experiences and the lessons that they've learned. I cover a wide variety of topics, and I talk to a wide variety of cops from the LAPD to Scotland Yard. And the guests on Hey Chaplain are going to help you confidently navigate through all the ups and downs that come with a law enforcement career. On today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different, something completely new to Hey Chaplain. I found a cop psychologist who is married to a police officer, and her name is Dr. Medina Baumgart. We put our heads together to make a list of common issues that cops have, and I've compiled those concerns and questions, and a few surprise questions the doc hasn't seen yet, and we're going to have her give us her answers, and then she and I will banter back and forth about them. I'm a chaplain and a church pastor. She's a psychologist and a cop wife. I think you're really going to like the conversations that we have here for you. I'm going to split this into two parts. Each half will have two big topics and two rapid-fire quick questions. My hope is that not only will you enjoy the episodes, but that you'll share both halves with as many cops and first responders as you can. Here's Dr. Medina Baumgart. Hello, Medina. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good, Jared. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am so glad to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm happy to be here and follow up my crustier half.
Well, we enjoyed having your husband on the show, and he said that he was eager to turn the podcasting responsibilities over to you.
Yes.
And so it's an honor to have you. And
Thank
I
you.
have several questions here.
Mm-hmm.
These questions are from your experience and my experience in dealing with first responders. And we have, taken out any of the incriminating, identifying evidence, so hopefully it's generic enough that we can talk about it. But I am really excited to hear,
me too.
What the questions are and what your answers to them might be.
I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. First question. What does a therapy session look like? And what if I pull in the parking lot and see a car that I recognize?
Mm-hmm.
I assume they mean a coworker or
I'm going to guess
like
a coworker, somebody that they know.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the first part of the question. So what does a therapy session look like and what you can expect? Generally speaking, that initial session is kind of a information gathering session, right? What brought you in? Tell me what's going on. Is there anything that you've tried that's worked or not worked? If you have any specific questions or concerns or other issues that are going on, and then have an idea of what your goals are. So if this therapy thing works out, as you expect or as you'd like it to, what would that look like for you?
What if you don't know? What if you're just hurting and it's kind of vague and you're just unsettled, you're unhappy? What if you don't know what your goals should be?
Yeah. Hey, a goal could be, I want to stop hurting like this.
Oh.
And start there.
Okay, that's not bad. Yeah.
And it could really be anything. And a lot of times, because I will get officers that'll come in and say, okay, well, I want to feel better. Beyond that, I have no idea. And that's okay, especially if you've been kind of immersed in that suffering for so long and sadly gotten used to it. You may not know what that, post-suffering phase looks like, and that's totally fine. And, we'll figure it out. And sometimes you come in with one goal, and as therapy evolves and you work on some stuff, you start changing it a little bit. And that's perfectly okay.
Some of those goals, like feeling better, are pretty vague. Have you ever had strangely specific goals?
I've had, working with officers with chronic pain. Some of them are on medication and possibly getting in that medication abuse range and wanting to gradually taper off that, but at the same time balance it with other interventions that can help them.
Okay.
And working with getting, signed permission to work with their medical provider to do that in a safe way possible.
What about hugely unrealistic goals?
Oh,
Ever have somebody
yeah.
come in and they're like, okay, they're expecting me to work miracles.
Yes. And so it's the, hey, I've had, law enforcement tend not to be a proactive group when it comes to getting into therapy. So, sometimes they probably should have come in 5, 6, 7 years before, but they waited till the stuff hit the fan and now they're at your door. And so it's, hey, so how many sessions is this going to take? Like 3, 4, 5, and then everything's better. And I just laugh. And I liken it to, if you're responding to a family disturbance call for service and that family expects you to like undo generations of dysfunction in about 10, 15 minutes, like that's not realistic.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
You're going to put a Band-Aid on it and wish them the best. But, therapy, it's the same way. We'll make you feel better in increments. But if we got 5, 6, 7 years to unpack, we're not magicians. So we'll work with you, but it is going to take some time.
I heard a counselor say one time, if it takes 7 turns of the screw for the screw to go into the block of wood, it takes 7 turns to come back out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
That. Yeah, I would say that that's reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it took a while to get into this mess, they should moderate their expectations and expect it to take a little while to get out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also understand too that we all have our training and experience, but we're not mind readers. We do the best we can with what we see and what the person says based on that training and experience. But the more open and honest somebody is, the more that we can help. And that goes with interventions too, right? And I will always say day one, hey, if I recommend something or do something that makes you laugh or you say not in a million years, like I understand it, but I will never, ever, ever, ever do this, then tell me. Because we got plenty of tools in the toolbox. I'm going to pull out the ones I think are helpful, but you're really the expert on your life. So if you know it's not going to be helpful, you don't have to worry about my feelings. I'll be okay. Just tell me because I don't want to waste your time.
You've used the term interventions a few times already. What do you mean by interventions?
Tools and techniques that we use in therapy to achieve a specific thing. So if it's, hey, I have trauma that keeps coming up and I'd like that to resolve itself, we'll use a specific technique or set of tools, which we call an intervention, to make that happen for you.
Okay. I believe some of my cops only know interventions as when a group of friends ambush you to stop acting like a not great person. All right.
Yes. Fair point.
I had some years ago a spell where I didn't have, at that time in my experience as a chaplain, I didn't have a lot of cops coming to talk to me. I was going to them. They weren't really coming to me in large numbers. And I did have a spell there where I did have a rash of people coming in, but it was only the ones who had already been fired or had already quit out of frustration. And I'm like, why are you coming to me now? You're already out the door, and now you're coming to see the chaplain. That was frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that, the culture of like, I got to figure it out. Or just push on. And, when it comes to mental health, spiritual health, right? It's very, very different.
Yeah. So what if they see a car they recognize in the parking lot? Is that going to cause them to just keep on driving?
It's happened. I will tell you that when I started with my agency 10 years ago, I was way more paranoid about that happening than my actual clients were.
Oh, really?
And oftentimes they saw that, and cops like to poke and have fun with things when they see vulnerabilities. So I'd go out somewhere, or let's say in the office, and you go to the waiting room, and then 2 people interact, and it's like a reunion. And I'm sitting there going, oh gosh, and I'm freaking out, and they just start having more fun with it. And so now, fast forward, I'm at a station, oh, hey, doc, I'll see you, this day, this time. I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Stop
Oh,
talking.
I would be mortified to mention
Mhm.
that I'm even for something like premarital counseling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, which is totally innocent and good
Hmm.
and positive. I still wouldn't mention in front of other cops that someone
Yeah.
was coming in, but
Yeah.
they might do it. And
Yeah.
so that's that. I think you're spot on.
Yeah. They'll
Yeah.
see that. And I mean, I have had those clients who are very paranoid where that could be a barrier to
Yes.
them engaging in treatment. And so I will always, to the extent that I can on my end, be mindful of, if I'm seeing back to back clients that maybe have the same unit of assignment, I will
Hmm.
do my best to stagger those appointments, or have a proactive plan in place where you get there, you park in a certain area, give us a call, let us know you're there, and then we'll, send you a text message or let you know when it's all clear to come on
I,
in.
I was going to ask if you had accommodations, if it
Hmm.
was somebody who had a sensitive situation or they were very sensitive about it, if you had
Yes.
some accommodation to get them in kind of
Yes.
more privately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll make it work. I mean, the goal there is getting help.
Yeah.
So if we have to, jump some hurdles and do some things to keep that as private as possible so that you're comfortable coming in,
Yeah.
just even you pulling your car in the driveway, then we're going to do that.
Should a cop mention that in advance if they are really anxious about that?
Mhm.
Should they just ask?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just ask the question, how do you navigate this? Or, hey, I have a concern about this. I don't want anybody else to see me. And then most therapists and therapy offices should be configured so that they can make that work.
Okay. So next question. All my coworkers say I need to get a prenup to protect my police retirement. But my fiance feels like I'm already trying to divorce her and she's really upset. What should I do?
This is a loaded question, Jared.
Yes. Well, I like the question because I feel like I could go ask a financial counselor about the same question, and then I could go ask a lawyer,
Uh-huh.
the same question, but I'm asking you.
Yeah.
So they want the prenup, but you brought up the topic and that
Mhm.
really upset the fiance.
Sometimes you have your older, saltier, more cynical officers on their third, fourth, fifth marriage.
That never happens.
Living in a crappy apartment. Yeah. The mattress on the floor. So that recommendation is coming from a place of love, but also from a place of deep hurt from them.
Yeah.
So I would always ask the person, what do you want to do? Because if that wasn't on your radar and you're kind of getting boxed into it, just in case, and
Yeah.
now you're doing something that maybe doesn't align with how you feel and what you want to do, and more of I'm doing this because I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
That might cause problems too, just internally, right? When we're
Okay.
making decisions and doing things that are kind of against what we believe in.
Yeah.
That can cause
Because there
problem.
are people, maybe to clarify, there
Mhm.
there are people either for religious reasons or just some kind of principle that they
Mhm.
have, they would not make arrangements for the end of a marriage
Yes.
on principle.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
And so if they're having peer pressure at work and everyone's telling them they're stupid if they don't do it, I think
Mhm.
that's the conflict you're pointing at.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
that internal conflict between what I think I believe in principle versus what I feel I'm being pressured to do,
Mm-hmm.
that's an issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And then let's say that the person wants to do this prenup and they talk with their spouse about it. And the spouse, has some concerns. And I'm sure the soon to be spouse, right, has also heard about law enforcement culture and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
great it is for relationships.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I cringe every
Mm-hmm.
time a newlywed cop spouse or a soon to be cop spouse hears the term starter wife.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's
Yeah.
so pessimistic
Mhm.
and cynical.
Yeah.
And I understand this is a job that breeds cynicism,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that it's a foregone conclusion.
Correct. Yeah. And so I think too, a lot of times, I mean, even in my own experience, when my husband and I were dating, you hear the things, and I firsthand tried to join this spouse support group thing this was when MySpace was a thing.
Dating yourself a little bit. Yeah.
And it was just a breeding ground for cynicism and rumors among spouses. And so that wasn't helpful. And so it almost created this paranoia or anticipated failure that I honestly didn't have at the outset of the relationship, you know? So
but the group was giving it to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. The spouses were just as bad as the cops.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. And it wasn't very encouraging. But I think, you know, if someone were to have this conversation with their fiance, soon to be spouse, you know, have a conversation about the intention behind it and why, you know, and even maybe square that with yourself before you engage in that conversation. Why do I want to do this? Why is this important to me? What feelings might this bring up for my partner? And then have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Not so much the, well, this is what I'm going to do. It has to be this way, you know, kind of like a mission focused.
Yes.
This is what it's got to be.
Which that's a super first responder, especially police kind of a thing, to compartmentalize and be like, how do I solve the problem? Just stick with the facts and I'm going to compartmentalize everything else, put all my emotions aside. But when you're in a relationship, you can't just put all the emotions aside. And your tone and your messaging matter.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, I've known, I would just peek behind the curtain here. This is an amalgamation of multiple conversations I've had with cops, and I'm sure you have too. And I'm sympathetic to the message that was heard. You're talking about financial planning. She's talking about relationship. And it sounds like one conversation, but it's really two very different conversations.
Different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you know, are focused on more like task-oriented communication, I need to get this done, and you're completely ignoring the emotion that's coming up, and just trying to like power through that, it's not going to work out very well in any situation, any conversation.
Yeah. How often do you feel I don't know how much you do in the way of couples counseling.
Okay. All right. I do some. Yeah. I'm mostly individual is my wheelhouse. It's what I enjoy, but I do some couples.
Yeah. I do a lot of the couples counseling screening where I'll meet once, we'll form a game plan. And part of that game plan is to refer them on to someone like you. And so, but I feel like I've seen, and I'm curious how much you've seen or what you can comment on about the failure to communicate well between the cop and his or her spouse.
Yes.
Where that task-oriented communication you're talking about a moment ago, where it is factually true, but it's hurtful.
Yes. And I'll just self-disclose here, and then kind of layer that into my professional work. So, you know, when my husband and I were dating and he would communicate a certain way, I'm somebody, sometimes if you ask me a question, I'm going to take you on a journey, right?
Okay.
Get there.
You got to provide the entire picture.
Yes.
Right?
I need context. He's more of but I'm just asking you this. And so what started to happen was he would communicate his way. I would communicate my way, which for him activated you're not being direct, you're lying, suspects lie, you're being evasive. And then so it completely changed. Now that command presence is kicking in, right? Which is very intimidating if you don't know what that is or you've never been in a relationship with that type of communication. And so I would blah, 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 you know, stutter and everything else. And it didn't work. And so we learned through lots of trial and error how to do that. And then fast forward to the job I have now, I see it all the time. And communication, I feel, is the foundation for all of the other pieces. And if your communication, it doesn't have to be perfect. Communication doesn't have to be perfect.
Sure.
But it has to feel like you're connecting with somebody like you're understanding and valuing that person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it. But when you start seeing that disconnection in relationships, the extramarital affairs, things like that happen, it's usually because people aren't communicating, one or both. And sometimes one person shuts down and then the other one will try. And after a certain point, the path of least resistance is, I'll shut down too. And then that, disconnection builds. And then that's where the brain, because the brain's a storyteller. So then the brain starts filling in the blanks. Which usually it's not the good stuff.
Right. Jump right to the worst. Possible interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that we started doing at our agency with our patrol trainees. So we started seeing a lot of the patrol trainees weren't successfully completing patrol training because of issues at home. So working with those units in the patrol training programs to actually bring in what they call like a family day. And so we're bringing in spouses, parents, siblings, and having a really honest conversation about the job, about the biology and the physiology. When they come home and they can't communicate, it's not just about them having a long day and being tired or having seen something terrible that day. There's a whole biological process that happens. Oftentimes, cops, historically, not great communicators. Spouses, I think, were taught to be in a supportive role constantly to our police officer. And, that can come with its own set of issues. But a lot of times we won't step up and say something because we don't want to upset or cause a fight or start an argument. And then, fast forward, you're not really communicating at all. About anything.
It's fascinating that you say that police aren't good communicators, because I know exactly what you mean. But professionally, many of them are fantastic communicators. They're excellent. They could talk their way through anything.
Yes.
And so why does it get so, why does that switch get flipped off when they come home? What factors are they not you're maybe not even recognizing that's causing them to not use those good skills?
Yeah, I think, obviously the quality of the relationships and the type of relationships they have on duty with members of the community, on calls, there tends to be some emotional distance there. Whereas, when you're talking with your spouse or your kid or your family member, there's a different level of emotional investment. And so I kind of see it like a balance of two worlds, right? So cops have one foot in the protection realm, and then one foot in the connection realm. They get a ton of training on how to complete the mission. How do I verbally de-escalate? How do I do this? How do I talk myself through this situation? So much training on how to do that. They don't get a ton of training on how do I have a meaningful conversation connection with my spouse or my loved one. And so the brain, we have all these connections in our brain. I liken it to going to the gym. That brain connection, that's work protection oriented, that sucker gets worked out constantly. And then that other connection that's for family members starts to atrophy. And so when the stuff hits the fan or it's a long day or you're exhausted and on autopilot, we're going to revert to what we know. And if the only thing we've trained consistently is that work task-oriented communication, that's what's going to come up, not the other stuff.
Yeah, there's a Bible word that I really like. It's a Greek word, praus, which means, it's usually translated as gentleness. And a lot of people read gentleness like, gentleness, that's just being weak.
Yeah.
But the Greek word is used for like war horses that are being reined in, soldiers that are standing by, those kinds of things where there's tremendous power, there's strength there, but it's under control.
Yes.
And so to be gentle with our family members, with our loved ones, with people where it's not appropriate for us to be talking like we're at work, and instead to shift gears a little bit or to add that other component, it requires I think a conscious and deliberate effort to be gentle.
Absolutely.
And we can do that. We can all do that. It's just a matter of consciously remembering that, hey, this is not a suspect I'm talking to. This is my wife.
Yes. Or my kid.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Doctor. We are going to wrap up this first episode with a couple rapid fire questions. Do you think you're ready? Think you're up for that?
Yes.
All right. We'll do two of them right here. Here's the first one. There's been a line of duty death recently, and I don't know how to talk about it with my coworkers or my loved ones at home. What do I say?
Sometimes you don't say anything. Sometimes you just be there with the person, holding that space with them. I think, cops like to fix things. And sometimes in those situations, I'm guilty of it, responding out to things like that. You want to have the words to make that suck less. And there are no words. Sometimes it's just sharing that space with somebody and being there.
Very nice. Very nice. Here's the second one. I just got told I have to go to a mandatory debrief for a critical incident. What should I expect?
You should expect it not to be a therapy session because it's completely different. You should expect to talk about what happened, talk about your responses, your reactions to what happened, and then learn very practical ways to facilitate post-incident recovery.
Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Medina Baumgart, thank you so much for being on Hey Chaplain. You did a wonderful job, and I really appreciated having you.
This was so much fun. I love this. I love the questions. I've never done anything like this before, so this was awesome. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Baumgart for being on this episode, and please remember, this was only part 1 of 2. So next week, you'll get the second half of our conversation with Dr. Medina Baumgart. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. Dr. Baumgart is a great counselor, but she's not your counselor. The information presented in this episode, including any statements or opinions expressed by Dr. Baumgart, is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment by a clinician who has actually met you. Always seek the advice of your qualified mental health care provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition, and never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on a podcast. Go see a professional. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain, and as always, let's pray for peace in our city.